Now it's time for Spot on Sports. Here's your hosts, Mike Trezor and Mike Cadone.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spot on Sports, New York's premier sports talk show where we talk New York sports and nothing but New York sports. My name is Mike Trezor, the great Michael Anthony driving the train for us tonight. Another big show for you tonight, a heavy dose of New York baseball. We'll sprinkle in some hockey and some basketball a little bit later on. Before we do any of that, let me say hi to my co-host, the coach, Mike Cadone.
Trez, what a pleasure to be back. You know, I was thinking outside a couple of minutes ago. We got a beautiful summer day here in New York. The Mets took 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. Hockey free agency, which, you know, you wouldn't even have on the burner. Nets, Knicks, we got some information. I'm sure we'll hit on Kyrie and KD and all that stuff. But really, we are in full swing Yankee Mets baseball right now. And just a great time, as always, for us to get back on the air and looking forward to, you know, hitting all these topics and more as we go forward throughout the summer and into the fall.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Mike. The weather here in New York, as you mentioned, has been fantastic. We haven't had very many real severe heat waves. I mean, it's been 80, 82 every day, sunny, beautiful, low humidity. Both New York baseball teams going great. So really not a lot to complain about this summer.
No, not at all. You know, you're right. You have to find things almost, you know, for someone like me who is a Knicks fan and not a Net fan, I have lots to complain on that front. But in terms of baseball, and I'm sure the owners are very happy as well. You know, in both Yankee and Metland, no rainouts. They don't have to worry about any double headers or single admission 2 games. So the beer is flowing.
40,000 plus coming through the turnstiles every night.
Absolutely.
And for the Steinbrenner family.
Like, you know, they need the dough, obviously, because times are tough. But seriously, it's great. And just in the times we have been on, to have two teams doing as well in a major sport as we have right now is really a treat for us.
And the Mets, Mike, they've been looking in their rearview mirror over the last couple weeks and seeing the Braves, you know, as it says on that rearview, objects are closer than they appear. The Braves have been getting closer than the Mets would like, but the last few days, including a day game today, you guys went down there, cooled them off. Here to help us out, break it down, is our Mets and our MLB reporter, the man we call Cappy, Chris Caputo. Chris.
Hey, guys. How's everything?
Everything's great, man.
Welcome, Cap.
Thanks for having me. We'll get to talk some New York sports on a beautiful day and see how the Mets and Yankees are faring up in the MLB.
So over the last series, Chris, you had Scherzer on Monday night, just his second start off the DL, was absolutely masterful that night. Ottavino came in behind him. He's been getting a good job done most of the season. And Diaz has been really, really great in that closer role. So Monday, nothing really to dislike about that game.
Oh, I mean, you throw that out there as your team is only 1.5 up going into that series, and you throw the Bulldog out there who, you know, in his first start was pissed that he came out after, you know, probably only 80 pitches and 5 or 6 innings. And you knew he wanted the ball this time out and did nothing to disappoint, got himself out of the little trouble that he had. And Edwin Diaz has struck out more than 50% of the batters this year. You cannot be upset with what he has given the Mets.
And, you know, it's funny, Chris, I've been watching a lot of Mets baseball because Monday night the Yanks were off. Tuesday night, I mean, I was much more interested in the Met game because of who they were playing and who the Yanks were playing. And then obviously a day game today. So Tuesday night, you know, I thought it was interesting, Chris. Right before Peterson gave up that big hit or the home run, Gary and Keith were wondering how long Buck was going to stay with him. He was over 100 at that point. Did you feel Buck might have stayed a little bit too long with Peterson in that game, or did you think he was in a tough spot?
I think it's getting to the point, guys, where he doesn't trust the bullpen as much, and it's getting later in the year that he's trying to get those couple of extra outs that maybe the third time through the lineup, normally he would take them out. But I think he's trying to trust these guys a little bit more. Peterson has been really great. Seems like everybody on the Mets is having kids. I don't know what they were doing 9 months ago, but he was out on maternity leave. But to give these guys the extra push and let them try and go that 7 now, so maybe they can get that bridge guy in the 8th, and then the 9th is what they're trying to do. Because honestly, if you look at their bullpen and how many times they've tried to trust the 1 and 2 run lead with the guys like Lugo, Ottavino, no more chasing Shreve, Drew Smith, they have all faltered, and it's mainly been the long ball. That guy right there, Peterson, in that spot, he was lightning that night, and you had to keep him out there. And, I would say, Mike, the starting pitching straight down the line. Taijuan Walker the other day was unbelievable, 0 runs. They've gotten good starts out of Bassett. You have your first inning woes with Cookie Carrasco, but for the most part, think about this lineup. If you can get Jacob deGrom back after the All-Star break with the pitching that they have, they're going to start to get so many good starts. Now, my one thing is I think that at some point they may head to a 6-man rotation to kind of give these guys a little bit of extra break as we get towards August and September.
Cap, you had mentioned obviously Max Scherzer before and what a huge impact he has had just in the 2 starts since he's been back. But is it crazy to make a statement at this point? I know we're only, about halfway or a little bit more through a season. But if you look at the history of the New York Mets, has there ever been a more impactful, immediate free agency signing than Max Scherzer?
No, I mean, Mets were looking for something when they went out and made a trade for Cespedes, for Gary Carter, for these guys mid-season. But a guy that has come in and been everything of what you asked for and everything of what you put the money down for, Max Scherzer wanted to pitch when he was hurt. He just knew that he had to go through the right protocols. And he said it. 50% was the first 90%. And then that last 10% was the mental. Can I get through extra innings? He hated pitching in AAA. He hated pitching in AA. But he went down there, did his job, bought these guys dinners, left AirPods for everybody, and said, you know what? I'm back. And really, he is everything that the Mets have asked for. And you know what? He's your ace right now.
Oh, without a doubt. And you got a great quality start today at a Bassett, as you mentioned. Just when, Peterson, Bassett, Walker, Carrasco might have a little hiccup here and there. As Met fans, as we go back, obviously our first thought is, oh boy, the other shoe is going to drop. Now there's no way they can maintain this. Walker last year, obviously all-star first half, then got tuckered out. But I think you're on to something here with a 6-man rotation later on. And if you can get deGrom back. But don't you just feel, and we mentioned this the last time we were on a while ago, there's just a different vibe with this team where it's, the other shoe is not dropping,
I'm always a little bit of a pessimist, and I wonder how bad it could get. But I just feel that there's a different feel to the team itself. You don't have a different manager in the dugout. You don't have guys who aren't backing each other. I just feel like as bad as Lindor can get, that's when Alonso's going to be hot. As bad as Eduardo Escobar is going to be, that's when Marcana's hot. That they all kind of pick each other up. And the reason why Lindor is hitting as well as he is this year, he has more RBIs now than he did the entire season last year. And that's not just him. He's doing things almost the same way, but he's got more support there. He's got, Jeff McNeil hitting. He's got, Sterling Marte saying, I'm going to get on base for you and give you a chance for that RBI. I'm going to steal a base. So there's a little bit different feel. But I'm telling you, these Braves are a good team, and they're not going to go down easy.
You mentioned the game today, the matinee, Chris. Big 2-game swing. We talked about it off the air. The Braves would have been a half game back had they won that game today. Lindor comes up big early. Canna adds on in that game. And, let's talk about the recent surge that the Braves have had. I mean, it was just a couple weeks ago, it seems they were 10-plus back. now just to be 2.5 back. Has that been a case of the Mets sort of regressing back to the pack, or is it the Braves finally showing what made them world champs last year, Chris?
I think it took a while for the Braves to get going. Without Freddie Freeman, Rosario was dealing with an eye problem. Their pitching really wasn't on track. I think it took them a while to get going. And let's be honest, the Braves were not playing, over 500 teams during this run of, getting like 23 out of 33 wins. Did the Mets come down a little bit? Yeah, but remember, they went to the West Coast. They were playing tougher teams. So they were playing without DeGrom and Scherzer and still played over 500 ball. So I don't think the Mets really came down. They had a couple of games they could have won here or there, but the Braves were just playing phenomenal. They were everything striding. This guy, Austin Riley, is an MVP candidate, and they really are pretty strong. Once they get Ozzie Albies back, I really think that the Mets and the Braves are probably 2 out of the top 3 teams in the National League.
Anybody else, Cap, Philly had a little bit of a run there when they let go of Joe Girardi. They've kind of fallen back. So, I think you make a great point when you say, the Mets and the Braves. I don't think that the Phillies have another run in them. I just think mathematically it probably just doesn't even make sense. But stepping outside quickly before we head to the Yankees, Dodgers, Padres, anybody like that you feel is a true threat. I would assume that you have to respect, Los Angeles, of course, but NL Central. Anybody you see maybe making a push here second half, or someone to pay attention to throughout the All-Star break?
I think the Brewers have come back down to reality, and they're good, but they're not as good. But I think the Dodgers are just, whenever one guy goes down, 3 more guys step up. You just never know. They pull Cy Young candidates throwing no hitters out of nowhere. So they always have something up their sleeve. I think it'll be a nice series with the Mets after the All-Star break with the Padres. I think they might be able to catch them at a downtime. But I think in reality, this is Mets, Braves, and Dodgers. And but the biggest thing, I know the rules have changed this year, and when you make the playoffs, you get a little bit of a chance to ease off. You got to win your division. I'm always a big proponent of that. Win your division. Try not to get in as a wild card, because I think the rules are a little bit different this year, and you want to make sure that you get one of those top seeds, so you're home and you're not playing, trying to win a 2 out of 3 series, something like that.
It's funny, Chris. You mentioned the rotation. They've been excellent. Walker, Bassett, Scherzer when he's been in there. Peterson's been good. I mean, even Carrasco, high ERA, but 9-4 on the season. Let's talk about the bullpen for a couple minutes, because you brought it up earlier. I mean, Diaz has really been great this year, 19 saves, ERA under 2. Drew Smith, for the most part, has been good. Ottavino's been fine. But with May out, and it seems like Lugo has maybe taken a little bit of a step back this year. Is that you guys' most pressing need as we approach the trade deadline, Chris?
Honestly, you definitely need some help back there. Smith's good, but he's given up 8 home runs. That's just way too much. We need another lefty. We got rid of Chasen Shreve, and now we have Joely Rodriguez, who you guys didn't want.
And now you know why we didn't want him.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to decide between him and Lugo, who's been worse lately. And, it's bad. Like, I'm not a big fan of bringing people back a second time. Like, hey, it didn't work the first time. Let's try it a second time. But I think the Mets have to definitely go out and look at people, whoever that might be. I think both the Yankees and the Mets, are both looking after Luis Castillo. I know it sounds crazy that the Mets would go after another starter, but I think the Mets are worried beyond this year, and you have to think about that. They don't want to go out and get themselves a rental for the rest of the year. They want to have a guy in the rotation so that if DeGrom decides that he wants to leave at the end of the year, and if Walker and if Carrasco decide to leave, that they have a guy under their control. But honestly, guys, the biggest thing that the Mets need right now is another bat, because I don't trust Eduardo Escobar at third base. I don't trust a backup catcher. James McCann is hurt. Tomas Nido and Patrick Mazeika are not going to do it. And the Mets, you guys can talk about it if you want. They are very reluctant to bring up their all-star catcher, okay? They don't even want to bring him up as a DH. then go out and get Wilson Contreras from the Cubs. But get yourself a catcher who's going to hit higher than 170. Get yourself a third baseman you can count on, and find a different DH besides Dom Smith or freaking going after J.D. Davis. I mean, we have DHs out there who can't hit 240. I'm honestly, guys, I have no problem with bringing up Mark Vientos. He's a third baseman, okay? Now, you want to bring him up now before the trade deadline. Give him 3 weeks. If he stinks, then you got to go out and get yourself another third baseman or a DH. But he may come up here and hit the ball. Now, you're right, this guy Alvarez, they don't want to bring him up. But give the guys in the minor league a chance. The rest of July, you have till August 2nd, before you make the big decision of, we're going to go out there and spend it on a 42-year-old DH or some guy Mancini from the from the Orioles. I'm not into that stuff. I want to get a guy who's going to do it every day. So honestly, the bullpen is a concern, but the Mets need more timely hitting. We're in a rut now where we go to the bench and we don't have a right-handed bat. We don't. So honestly, I think the biggest need is getting themselves a hitter.
McCann, behind the plate, you were talking again about just consistency and getting a catcher and being a little reticent to bring up Alvarez and all those things. But it seemed like McCann had started to kind of find his groove and then got hurt again. Since he's been signed, overall, obviously a disappointment. But when he's been on the field and had a little bit of a sample size, he's done all right. But Cap, is there anything worse than playing the Braves and watching all-star Travis d'Arnaud? I mean, talk about the ultimate Met fan, getting your nose rubbed in it. Travis d'Arnaud, all-star, throwing guys out. I mean, he's everything. He is everything the Mets need right now.
Yeah, and I think he just felt comfortable once he left New York and did so much better in all the different places that he went. But the Mets definitely have an issue there. You sign a guy for 4 years, $40 million, and he has been a total bust. Now, remember, that's not on the current regime. That's on the old owners. That's on the old GM. These guys are inheriting what was picked up. I'm not saying JT Realmuto any better. He can't even play when they go to Canada due to COVID. I don't know if you guys looked at it, but take a look at Toronto. They got a series coming up against I can't remember who it is. Half the team can't play because they don't have a vaccine. It's unbelievable, some of the rules out there. I'm just saying, at this point, I don't think Steve Cohen is against going out and getting himself a catcher, even though he's got a 4-year, $40 million with James McCann. I don't think Steve Cohen is against going out and get a third baseman, even though we got a 2-year deal with Eduardo Escobar. He is going to do whatever the GM, Epler, says is what to do. And I think at the trade deadline, guys, we got about 2 weeks, the Mets will get themselves some type of DH third baseman or catcher.
I want to ask you, Chris, about, this might just be noise. It might just be silly speculation, but these things keep bubbling up, especially lately, about DeGrom possibly wanting to go somewhere at the end of the season. Is that something that you put any stock in whatsoever? Any type of, I don't know, Met fans have fallen in love with Scherzer. I mean, as well they should. But you think there's any type of maybe just a small resentment there from Jake to Scherzer about the amount of attention, not to mention the paycheck that Scherzer is getting, the love he's getting from the Met fans?
You got to remember, Jacob deGrom is no youngster, mid-30s now. So you're going to sit there and just start throwing money at people for no reason. I don't think it's the right thing. He has to prove that he's going to be healthy. Do I think that Jacob deGrom could leave the Mets? Absolutely. I really do think that you could have him say all the right things and pull a Noah Syndergaard and not even give the Mets a chance to rebut. I really think he could go. And I think that's why the Mets have to go out at the deadline and possibly look for another pitcher that they have control over past this year. You got to remember, you got Tyler McGill, who could be back in, August, September. The Mets have a lot of arms there. But it really is impressive to hear the Mets tell Jacob deGrom, hey, listen, you hit 100, 101, and 101 in your first inning. You need to pull it back a little bit. If you're looking for something to do tomorrow night, 6:30, MLB.com is making it free. You can watch deGrom pitch to Alvarez in a minor league game in Syracuse. And I think that Jacob deGrom will be back the first full week after the All-Star break. And guess who he's going to face on Tuesday night with the 7 line in attendance? The New York Yankees.
Oh, yeah. And our buddy Johnny Sticks is on his way out to Wrigley for the Mets next series, Chris. You know, he told me privately, he said, listen, if I make this trip out to Wrigley, I want you to take that Caputo guy off the Met beat, and I want to be the Met, new beat reporter. I think I deserve it.
Nice Friday afternoon. They got a Friday matinee, 2:00. Something I'd be interested in. I think, honestly, if the Mets take 3 out of 4 and the Braves split their next 4, Mets go in, feeling really good into the All-Star break. People don't make a lot of that stuff. I do. I really think going into the All-Star break, how you feel. You think about this last year. July 7th last year, Jacob deGrom, that was his last time he ever pitched. That was the downfall for the Mets. And they went into the All-Star break just totally defeated. I think the Mets go into the All-Star break 4.5 up. No doubt they start sailing after the break, start going after the Padres, bring the Reds back for a couple more. They do have a lot with the Braves, which I love. When you have a chance at the end of the year to win it, I want you to beat the teams that are in front of you. And I like how the MLB set that up, and the Mets will finish with a lot of games against the Braves.
Let's switch gears and go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I just was going to just interject 1 second. Almost like when you talk about boxing, right? You go toe to toe. The favorite is there. They take the best shot. You take Mike Tyson's right cross. You're still standing, and you go. So maybe at this point, the Mets are thinking that, Chris, if they go into the All-Star break, all right, we were up big. We handled the Braves' best shot. They went, and now, like you're saying, let's sail.
But Mike, before we switch to the Yankees, throwing it back to you, do you really think the Mets are for real? Do they have major holes that come late August, early September, the Mets are not in first place?
You asking Coach?
Either one. Me? Both of you.
They're for real. They're for real. I think there's, while you were saying, Cap, about the bats, and we need to know the bat, and so absolutely. But I just think they're too in sync, and are picking each other up when one guy goes. I don't think the holes are going to, barring any injuries. Again, we knock wood, but as the standard right now, we're in good shape. Trez?
If you want to ask me, Chris, I will say this: when the Met franchise has been built on starting pitching, that's when they get to the World Series. You look at the group in '69 with Seaver, Kuzman, et cetera, et cetera. You look at the group in '86 with Gooden, Darling, Sid, et cetera, et cetera. You look at the group in 2015 with Harvey and Wheeler in that group, and you say, hey, listen, with a starting pitching rotation like this, I do think the Mets are for real this year. So let's switch gears and talk some Yanks, Chris. A little bit of a, coming off that very emotional 4-game series up in Boston last night, a little bit of a letdown. 2 bad outings in a row for Holmes. Holmes, I mean, listen, the prior outing, he wasn't good, but last night he was awful. I mean, he hit 2 guys, walked a guy. I mean, the 2 base hits he gave up were soft contact, but I mean, still, he didn't get anybody out. And they were up 3-0 after a good outing by Cole. And, I mean, it wasn't anything that the Reds did right. It was really what Holmes did wrong. But to me, he was due for one of those, Chris.
Yeah. The only question I have is, you get called on time and time again as the 7th inning guy, the 8th inning guy, and you perform and everybody's, real happy the first 3 times you come out as the 9th inning guy and you do your job. But is it different when you're back there knowing that you are the man and you're going to be called upon all the time? I'm not saying throw Chapman back in there. I'm just saying, do the things change when you all of a sudden become the closer? And, he's going to have his blips on the radar. But that's why at 61-26, it doesn't matter. It's just that for the whole season, we've expected the Yankees, when you open up your phone, you turn on the TV, in the 6th inning, you're up 3-0. You expect 2 hours later to go on your phone and say, good win. It's over. We pulled it out. Even though we blew it in the 8th, in the 9th inning, Judge came through. The other team was stupid for not walking them. And the next thing you know, they walk it off. It doesn't happen every game. But at 61-26, you don't really worry about that. Those games are more for the Red Sox being positive than they are negative for the Yankees.
You know, it's funny that early in the season, both Tyone and Cortez were, I mean, amazing. And it just seems like both of those guys have dropped off a little bit their last couple outings. What about Tyone and Cortez in their last couple outings, Chris?
You know, Tyone's had almost a 7 ERA in his last 7 starts. You got to remember, go back and look at his last few years. He doesn't have many innings that he's thrown. I think he had 140 innings maybe a couple years ago. Before the season before that, maybe 30 innings. Even his good innings that he had years and years ago with the Pirates, he wasn't the ace. He wasn't the guy being asked to do everything. He had guys on his staff like Garrett Cole, like Archer. He had guys on his staff that were looked to do all the major work. So I think right now, I think a lot of the stage got to him, and, you know, throwing a lot of innings is not something his body is used to. It's kind of like the wall that Taijuan Walker hit last year. Just got to the point where he hasn't pitched that much. Even Nestor himself has said, everybody's putting me on this pedestal at a 1.79 ERA. I don't feel I'm that good. Come talk to me at the end of the year. I think he knows people are eventually going to start to catch up to him. So I think you have 2 serviceable guys, and people want to say, oh, Tyone and Nestor Cortez and all these guys, these are our number 1 guys. They're the ones going out there as bulldogs and giving us 7-8 innings. Yeah, Tyone gave you 8 innings here, 8 innings, 7, 8. All his innings were really high from after, like May. But he's going to tire out if you keep going to him. And I think the biggest concern that Yankee fans have right now is their manager. Is he going to pull the strings at the right time? They have the parts there, but I think these guys haven't been in major situations. And I think they're trying to, Aaron Boone's trying to trust these guys with the 7th inning. They're okay in the 3rd and the 4th. He's trying to trust them with the 7th and 8th inning a little bit more than he did early on in the year. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think really what it is, make sure nobody gets hurt and make sure at the time of the end of the season, everybody's rested. They're going to hit their bumps in the road. Everybody's going to have that. But I think they're good 2nd and 3rd guys. And eventually, Garrett Cole's got to be your ace.
So, Cap, let's talk about potential trades, as we mentioned so much about the Mets at this time of year. The name that keeps coming up in Yankee land is Joey Gallo. It seems that he's on the block because he's really hasn't panned out the way they would have liked to. But for someone of his skill set, is there a real market for him? And you keep hearing another name that you mentioned potentially for the Mets in Wilson Contreras that might be a nice fit for the Yankees. So, obviously you have Contreras waiting in the wings possibly because the Cubs are so bad. But is Joey Gallo, let's not even talk Gallo for Contreras, but is he a piece that it would even appeal to teams? Maybe now, even in the National League, being that there is a DH in both settings?
164 batting average, likes to swing for the fences. Honestly, there's going to be a team out there. Somebody just picked up Robinson Cano because the Mets were playing them. That's the only reason why he's on the Braves right now, because the Mets are paying him to play the Braves. Joey Gallo could get traded to the Padres, who tried out Robinson Cano and said, hey, listen, you batted 120 for 3 weeks, and now we're going to get rid of you. The Phillies, because Bryce Harper might not be back, and maybe we can throw him out there. Yeah, those type of teams, maybe. The Texas Rangers might say, Joey Gallo's played here before. Maybe he can do it one more time. Those are the 3 teams I could see him going. What are you getting back as, honestly, Trez, are the Yankees looking to really get anything back or just get rid of him? If you're trading him to the Padres, Phillies, or Rangers, who on that team on their major league roster are you really looking for? You're not looking for anything. You're looking to get rid of him so that maybe you can pick up somebody else somewhere else.
Yeah, I drive him to the airport right now.
I think a lot of guys would.
But, the guy who's interesting to me, Chris, and I remember very distinctly a conversation you and I had about you wanting a very steady catcher for the Yanks, right?
Yeah.
And you said they need a guy that can hit and that can catch every day, who's good defensively. Well, out of nowhere appeared Jose Trevino. He's been really, really good for them this year. Gotten a lot of clutch hits. He handles the pitchers very, very well. But my concern with him moving forward is that he's not really used to playing this many games. Do you see him wearing down as the summer goes on and he's playing basically 2 out of every 3 games?
Yeah, I think that could be an issue for the Yankees, is trying to put some guys back there that haven't done it every day in the heat and, trying to get him to perform offensively. I think that's the biggest thing. Is I think he'll be serviceable, being able to catch these guys. The good part is the Yankees don't need him to hit 250 and, hit another 10 more homers the rest of the year. They're just looking for a guy to get him through. It's the playoffs. Think about this, guys. I don't know exactly what this number is. You can look it up. I believe that the Yankees right now are hitting 240 or below as a team. The last time that they've done that well and moved on was like 40, 50 years ago. So they're winning with the long ball. They're winning with, hey, let's get up early and kind of hope to hold on. Last year at this time, they're hitting like 270. So their average is way down. It's swing and miss, go for the fences. So if they're going out there for somebody, I don't think they're looking for a home run guy. I think they're looking for a guy that's more contact, a guy that's going to hit 270 to 290. But I think it's kind of one of those things back in, in the 80s, 90s with the Braves. You had Javi Lopez, and he was good. He could hit the ball. But when it came time for it, who was the catcher for Greg Maddux? And that was Lopez. That was Eddie Perez. They always had a guy that they wanted to have as that. And I think the Yankees need 2 catchers. One guy that's going to be able to catch the big ace, and another guy that's going to be able to bop the ball on an everyday basis. And if that's one of the holes, I think maybe the Yankees want to fill that soon.
Cap, as a math teacher, finance guy, you're going to love this question. What will Aaron Judge be worth in dollars and cents if he continues this going forward on the open market? What is this guy going to be worth?
Well, he definitely played against himself in the money, and he's winning. He could do it. And I think the Yankees upper organization would even say, if he continues to do it, God bless him. We banked that he wasn't going to. And if that arbitration would have happened where he actually had to listen to the negative things that the Yankees wanted to say against him, I think he would have even taken even more. I think the Yankees have maybe put themselves in a bad spot. Now, you can ask Bernie Williams, hey, did you really want to leave the Yankees? I don't think he did. I think there were certain guys on the Yankees that would never have left no matter what the amount of money. Mariano Rivera, I think, said Boston could have offered him $100 million. He never would have left. I think the Yankees are in a tough spot that really he could go out there and ask for $40-something million a year and get it from somebody, and it might even be across town.
That would be something else. I think even more so than the money per year, it's going to be the amount of years. I think, someone's going to go big time. He's obviously answered the questions about staying healthy so far.
Yeah.
If he keeps this going and leads the Yankees to anything, in the postseason, boy, he can literally write his own check. Trez, any danger you worried about him being lost, or is he just going to be in Yankee pinstripes no matter what?
Yeah, I think that they're going to open up the wallet for Judge. They'd be really foolish, Mike, not just from an on-the-field performance standpoint, but also from a PR standpoint, from an attendance standpoint. This guy's not just the face of the Yankees; he's the face of baseball right now.
But the Judge's chambers are going to be moving to another city. It just doesn't make sense.
You look at every kid in every ballpark in the United States right now, whether he's a Yankee fan or he's not. He knows who Aaron Judge is, and he's not going to get popcorn or a hot dog. Aaron Judge is that bad. He wants to see Aaron Judge hit. And, from a baseball standpoint, bigger picture, Mike, I think it's a really important thing. So the Yankees, I think, would be really foolish. They know they lost the gamble by not signing him to a deal before, by not upping the ante a little bit over what they did offer, and by leaking out that those numbers at the beginning of the season. It's going to come back to cost them, but they're going to have to do it. They have to do it.
Do you think that there is a a free agent that the Yankees would need to fill? Besides, I know we talked a little bit about the catching stuff. Is there something that the Yankees still need to fill? Because I think you're right. I think the more that guys stay with their teams, the better it is for Major League Baseball. I don't think Judge is going to go anywhere. I think he will stay. I think the NBA right now is crazy with the amount of guys moving around. I think Major League Baseball needs Judge to stay where he is. But I think the Yankees at this point are less interested. They'll deal with that in the offseason. Do you think that there's something that the Yankees need to fill right now before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think, the relievers they have, Chris, are very good, but there's just not enough of them. You look at how deep the bullpen was at the beginning of the year compared to where it is now. And I really think that the only guys they're really going to rely on are Peralta, who's been really good for the most part, King, of course, Holmes, and once in a while you're going to rely on Lidke. Those are the only 4 guys. Everybody else they don't trust, or they're hurt and they're out of the picture. So I could see Andujar being dangled out there. He's been talking about wanting to be traded. Unless they do get rid of Gallo, they don't have a spot to bring him up at. So that's the move I can see them making, dangling Andujar out there and seeing what kind of arm they can get for the bullpen back in return. So listen, Chris, we got to run. Great job as always. And we'll talk to you in a couple weeks. All right.
All right. Sounds good. We got a Subway Series coming up in about 2 weeks. We can put our 2 first place, hopefully, teams together and enjoy it as much as we can.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cap.
All right, guys. Words of Bart Scott. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
I'll talk to you soon. All right, Mike. We were going to talk a little bit of Rangers hockey with Chris Caiozzo. I'm not sure if he's here. Michael, do we have Chris?
He's coming. There he is.
He is on.
Hey
guys.
How you doing, Chris?
How you doing, Chris?
Mike and Michael, from Chris to Chris. I know you didn't get a chance to speak with Coach Mike last time you were on, but we're going to talk some Rangers hockey, folks. And here to do that with us is our new Ranger reporter, Chris Caiozzo. So, Chris, help us put a bow on the Rangers season. What were your takeaways on that series against Tampa? Obviously, Tampa went on to the finals. Rangers did not. What were the big takeaways for you from that series?
2 words: a bright future. I know the last time I was on the show, we talked about the Carolina series. That was at the beginning of the Carolina series. They played one great series versus Carolina. Obviously, they went to a game 7. I thought they played excellent hockey. The game changer in that Tampa Bay series was game 3 when they were up 2-0 versus Tampa Bay. And, you can't let a good team back in any sport. Basketball, you remember the series when LeBron and the Warriors, baseball, it's just any sport. You can't let a good team in. And this Tampa Bay team had experience. They had good coaching, and the Rangers were well coached. I can go on about Gallant for a long time. I think he's here to stay. But the problem with the Rangers was the youth. Usually, Ranger fans might disagree with me, but the youth experience, the playoff experience. And if they win that game, they're going to the Stanley Cup. I don't see them blowing a 3-0 lead. Unfortunately, they lost that game, and they went on to go to game 6, and you can't keep Tampa hanging around, and they did. And Steven Stamkos and all those guys, they had a lot of veterans, a lot of ex-Rangers, which as Ranger fans we hate to see. But Colorado got the job done, and they made a lot of Ranger fans happy. So, what really went south, Mike, was both Mikes, I should say, now that we have 2 mics here, was the youth and the experience was really where the series went south.
Chris, Rangers made a little bit of a splash earlier in the postseason with some trades, and now today, big signing for them, Vincent Trocheck from Carolina, who actually led the postseason in goals. You happy about that move? It seems like it was big money, but compared to what's out there on the free agent market, he seems like a perfect fit for the Rangers. At center coming up this year.
You look, I've been getting the notifications to my phone all day about moves going on, and I think the Rangers so far are winning free agency. They haven't made many moves. I think, and I'll go over them. Trocheck was the big one, and we got him at $5 million a year for 7 years, which I think is a steal. I know they were talking about Malkin, Malkin returned to the Penguins. I know he's getting up there in age, but he still wanted a lot of money. And I think the Rangers made the right move on passing on him and bringing in a guy like Trocheck. He might have a short history, but he lost to this team in 7 games. And sometimes those guys want to come over to the good side, as we say. This team, we saw Colorado today. Sorry to go off on a little tangent here.
No.
We saw Colorado just dismantle their team today.
Yeah. Salary cap hockey, unfortunately, that's a problem.
Tampa Bay's in the same boat. But the moves that the Rangers made today, one move that I didn't really disagree, that I did disagree with, was that whole trade for Georgiev going over to Colorado. I think we could have traded him a lot earlier and got a lot more for him. We got some 3rd-round picks and a 5th-round pick. I think I would have loved to see Kemper in a Rangers uniform. I think we could have swapped Georgiev for Kemper, and I would have taken him as a backup to Shesterkin because, Kemper, I don't believe is a good starting goalie. They got away with their speed and their stick skills and their goal scorers, but I think Colorado, now I think Georgiev is going to shine. I had this conversation with some friends the other day about the Rangers goalie coach. I don't know his name off the top of my head. I'm not going to say it, but over the last couple of years, if you go through the Rangers goalies, Cam Talbot, Antti Ranta, Carolina Hurricane himself, we saw him in the playoffs. We saw, obviously, Henrik, Henrik. Georgiev, Shesterkin. You've seen some good goalies come through the Rangers system and shine.
Absolutely.
Cam Talbot just got traded, unfortunately, but he was in Minnesota. Antti Ranta and George. I think Georgiev is going to shine in Colorado. I think, they're losing some big pieces, but they still have Makar, who is probably one of the top 5, if not top 3 hockey players. They still have McKinnon. But I think I didn't like what we got back for him. I think we could have got a lot more. But back to the Rangers, now they were in a little predicament today because they're back up to Shesterkin, Sachem alumni here, but Keith Kincaid, who played at Sachem and went on to be that was our backup. And we actually lost him to Boston today. He signed with the Boston Bruins. But we did sign Halak, who Islander fans remember. He was in Boston for a couple of years. He's been around. He's 37 years old. But, Drury said it's a great move for the organization. He has the experience winning. Remember those good Boston teams in the late 2010s? I think he's going to be a good addition. Again, who wouldn't take a 15 to 20 game season for $1.5 million? It's a great contract, and we didn't have to spend much money on him. And then we signed, ironically, Louis Domingue as a 3rd-string goalie, who actually came up pretty clutch for the Penguins. I know they didn't win that series. They blew a 3-1 lead. But I think the Rangers are making great moves so far. They let Frankie Vitrano go, but I'll let you guys take it away for a little bit because I could talk about this for hours.
No,
I want to hold your feet to the fire for a sec, Chris. Out of the guys that were here last year that did help the Rangers go on this run, and it doesn't necessarily have to be performance-based, but for any reason, age, contract, bad fit, anything. Who are the guys that you would like to see the Rangers move on from that were part of this team in 21 to 22?
This is. I guess I can answer this the opposite way. I don't think there was actually Ryan Strome. That's the number one guy who I don't think they're going to re-sign Mike, but he just did not have a good fit on this team. He put some goals in. He had a missed opportunity, which all Ranger fans remember, versus Tampa Bay. That's one guy, Mike, and I can't really think of it. Well, Kevin Rooney, but he's gone. Actually, he went to Calgary today. He's got signed by Calgary. So Kevin Rooney and Ryan Strome were the 2 guys that, I could have said we could have done without for this year, and they're actually gone. But to reverse that question, guys who I wish the Rangers kept and they got rid of were Frankie Vitrano, who I think I thought they were investing in this guy, trading from Florida to get Frankie Vitrano, who played excellent. He scored that game-tying goal in Game 6. They didn't want to pay him, and he went over to Vitrano. He left, and he's gone now. But I thought it was a great addition to that team. Andrew Kopp is another one. He went to Detroit. But I think those are two guys that Anaheim, Frankie Vitrano went to. But I think those are two guys that the Rangers should have held on to because they executed the game plan. They listened, they gelled in only about 20 to 30 games that in the regular season. And I think in the playoffs, they showed up.
Moving forward, just in the little bit of time that we have left, and obviously day one of free agency, there's still some big names out there. The Rangers had been linked in a trade, possibly to Patrick Kane. As you mentioned, Chris, I think we would definitely have to, in this area especially, give the Rangers an A+ for how they've started out. You see maybe one more big move in the bag, or do you think that they're happy right now and going forward into training camp in a month and a half or so, feel good that they've taken that next step?
I think so far, signing Trocheck, as we talked about, was a big move for them. They could get Nazem Kadri from Colorado, who I think, has that now Stanley Cup experience. He stepped up in the playoffs for them. He was a guy who, a year ago, I would have asked you guys who Nazem Kadri was, you probably wouldn't have known who he was. Neither of would I have. But I could see them going after him. But right now, quickly, before we wrap up here, the lines are looking powerful for next year. You got Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, Panarin, Trocheck, and Kakko, who Kakko hasn't been signed yet. He is a free agent. I think they'll bring him back. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Blaze, Hedel, and Kratzov, which, and these guys, Hunt, Goodrow, and Reeves, those four lines, I think the Rangers are going to stay put. But if they do make one more move, Mike, I think it'll be after. I think the Kane talk is out of the picture because if they got Trocheck. But
sure.
It would have been nice for the Stanley Cup experience that Kane had. But I'd be happy if we ended up with Kadri.
Terrific job, Chris. We'll talk to you as training camp gets closer, and have a great rest of the summer. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris. Great job. Big day for the Rangers.
Yes.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Be well.
All right, Mike, let's get into some hoops.
All right.
Obviously, the big story, not the big story, but the big story of the last couple of days anyway, is
Jalen Brunson? Knicks, no, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Is the Knicks' pursuit or potential pursuit of Donovan Mitchell. Now, obviously, fresh off the Jalen Brunson signing, 4 years, $104 million. What's your opinion of what you're willing to give up to get Donovan Mitchell in here?
That's a great question, Mike, because you know what? To get a player like Donovan Mitchell, obviously you're going to have to give up so much. The one thing that Utah is looking for in a rebuild is going to be picks. And draft picks aplenty is what the New York Knicks have. They have 8 first-round draft picks, I believe, in the next 4 drafts. It's might be a little bit more than that, but they definitely have 8 first-rounders coming up. So, when you're looking at a potential trade partner right there, that's one thing. But Utah is not just going to go there. Do you give up an RJ Barrett? Is that, something on the table? I listened to many different, NBA experts today and different shows, and it was all about trying to get Mitchell, but also, keeping Barrett. But I don't think you're going to be able to keep him and bring in a superstar. It's not just going to be about draft picks. Barrett, a young guy. Interesting when you look at their comparisons, which I had a couple of minutes to do. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell, superstar quality, proven it, going from there. What was the big thing that everybody has been and that we've talked about for 2 years now about RJ Barrett is his shooting. But believe it or not, RJ Barrett is a better three-point shooter than Donovan Mitchell. Now, you're not bringing Mitchell in to shoot threes, of course, but it's just interesting when you look at comparisons. But we need star power, of course. It's time for the Knicks to make a deal such as this. If you can hold on to RJ Barrett, great. Other than that, I would say to Utah, Take 4 first rounders and anybody else you want off this roster, and let's make this happen.
But you're not giving up Barrett.
Without giving up Barrett. If you have to give up Barrett, boy, that's a tough call. You know, I've always I've been a fan of his from the beginning. But you know what? I like you mentioned before, I drive him to the airport and say, thanks, RJ. Have a great time out in Utah. And let's get the Greenwich, Connecticut product, Donovan Mitchell, in the orange and blue of the New York Knicks.
All right. So now you've got Mitchell. Now you've got Brunson. You've got a team that's going to be dominated on offense by guards. Is that immediately going to make Julius Randle one unhappy camper on the Knicks?
It's really hard to figure out what makes Julius Randle happy and what makes him unhappy. You know, he 6th man of the year, signed the big contract. You know, he really he came into his own. And then last year, the poor guy was miserable. I don't know whether saying poor guy is an appropriate way to say that, but just an unhappy guy. So I think perhaps anytime you can get more talent around someone, that's going to make him more happy. I think the pressure has been on him to feel like he had to be a number one to carry the load. When you bring in a Brunson, and then if you can get Mitchell, I think maybe he's going to be incredibly happy if he's still on the roster, because he's like, you know what, I can just do my thing now. And you know, there's other people who the pressure is on, especially financially. So he might turn around and really thrive. It is going to be an interesting set of affairs here, Mike. What happens and who's still on the roster should they be able to pull this trade off?
All right. So with 3-4 minutes left, let me take off all the protective equipment, and let you have at me about the lousy Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
I mean, obviously Kyrie opts in 36 or whatever obscene amount of money he's going to get, and now Durant wants out. So you're Sean Marks. How are you handling the trade request of one Kevin Durant?
All right, well, we'll write this down, Mike. What is it? July 13th of 2022. I'm actually proud of the way the Brooklyn Nets have handled this. I'm going to say now, I'm not proud of the players, but I'm proud of the Nets. I think Joe Tsai, Sean Marks, as you mentioned, they're doing the best that they can. They drew the line with Irving and said, hey, look, we're not going, you know, apparently they threw some kind of long-term deal out there, but they really didn't want him to take it, obviously, and it wasn't anything that he was going to lick his chops at. But they said, all right, opt in, but this is the way it's going to be. Now, apparently, before we came on the air tonight, you know, Irving made it known through his people again, he's not requesting a trade. Well, isn't that nice of him not to request a trade? But you know he would welcome it as well. But the Nets are saying this, hey, let's see what we can get first with KD. They have not found anything with KD, obviously, yet that's blowing their socks off. And when you look at the trade market that has been in the NBA, Rudy Gobert, the amount of first-round picks that they got back for him, to have Kevin Durant, who's a top 3, maybe top 1 NBA player, what can you get for someone like him that is of equal or value that's even there's nothing, right? Exactly. So you could say you could go the route that we talked about with Utah or whatever else in stockpiling picks, but the Nets are not in that mode, and thank goodness they're not the New Jersey Nets. You know, they are the Brooklyn Nets. This is a team. This is winning now, and let's go. So they're going to have something else. I would not be shocked, quite honestly, if they find a way here to talk to KD, talk to Kyrie, get them together. Let's go one last run here and see what we have. Maybe Ben Simmons comes. And what gets lost, Mike, in all the trade talk with the Nets, you hear 1,000 different things, 1,000 different types of scenarios. Ben Simmons is really a major problem of holding a lot of these trades up. And it's not because teams are worried he's not going to play. It's that he has a contract. You can't. He has the rookie extension contract, and there's a lot to. And I would be lying if I could, rip off the minutia of this right now. But you can't bring another rookie extension contract in. So you talk Devin Booker can't do it. Bam Adebayo can't do it. So who's going to be traded? Trade him to the Heat. Yeah, okay, but Adebayo's the first one you're going to talk about. Tyler Hero, these guys, they can't come back in these trades. And to be able to say, all right, well, we got to get rid of Ben Simmons. Who's going to take him right now? So the Nets, I think they're playing what they should. They're doing everything. They're making the calls. They're fielding the offers. But you know what? Bravo to them. If they can't find what they want, stand pat. Let's get these two guys together, play. You asked for the coach. You basically ran everything. This is your team, fellas. Get out there and do it.
Yeah, and I am not trading him to the Heat. I mean, you'll see
heck,
the Heat
no,
in the
no,
finals
definitely.
every year for the next 5-6 years. So you know what, Kevin, you want to go to the Heat? Well, that's nice that you want to go there, but I don't want to send you there, and I'm not going to get value back in return. So forget about that. So you're right. I think their best option is to try to get the two of them back on the same page and hope that works. And if you have guys pouting on the bench, you know what, we'll see what happens then. So you know what? That's going to do it for us tonight, folks, for Spot on Sports. Terrific episode. We want to thank Chris Caputo for his knowledge on the Mets, on the Yanks. We want to thank Chris Caiozzo for coming on, spreading some knowledge, some up-to-the-minute breaking news on the New York Rangers. Our producer, engineer is the great Michael Anthony. Our theme music, Spot On, is by Mr. Scott Daly. Our logo art is by Valerie Hanatic, the Jets fanatic. Our voiceover guy is the amazing Archie Snowden. And for everyone here at Spot On Sports, including my partner, the coach, Mike Gadone, this is Mike Trezor, thanking you for watching and saying we'll see you in just a couple weeks here on Spot On Sports.
Whatever it takes.